Welcome to our very first live recording of Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And you are our very first audience for a live record. So I'm going to start with another big round of applause for you guys, because I'm really excited that you're here to listen. So thank you so much.
Come on, guys, you can be noisier than that. Come on, here we go.
This is not a bad day, as I said, to do our very first record. This is not a bad location at Stamford Bridge. And we've got some pretty cool guests as well. Carly Telford and Aluko. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Really looking forward. Are you looking forward to this?
I'm very much looking forward to it. Special day, Carly, as well. How are you doing?
No, I've had the best day, and it has been 8 or 9 months of a lot of hard work to get to this point. And I don't think we get appreciated enough for that. The girls on the pitch, people behind the scenes, Julie, my boss, shout out to G. But it has been a long slog, and you know what it is? We did it. But yeah, I just hats off to the girls because it's been an incredible season, and they're about to go into Euros now, and I'm very proud that a lot of them will go and represent their nations. And yeah, I'm very proud to wear this badge and wear this beautiful t-shirt, which I hope you've all bought.
Pretty sure that's backwards. We'll pretend it's
It is
not.
backwards. But that's what everyone else was doing. I was a sheep and I joined in. I apologise for it.
Should we start with a really obvious one? What sparked your love of football? When did you kind of know that this could be a career?
I mean, to be honest, like, not to sound boring, everyone's heard this story a million times of, like, I think my generation and our era was like, none of us realised we were going to be footballers. Like, we did it for love. We did it for passion. I played it because my guy friends played it. I didn't know girls couldn't play football until someone's parent was like, why is she on the pitch? And then, yeah, like, a lot of us took a gamble, I think, at probably 17, 18, 19, when a lot of mine and Annie's, probably Jill's, Steph's friends went, parents were going, you're not really going to make any money. You should probably go to university and get a job. And not that we kind of were like, we're fine, but we did. Like, we kind of were like, I think we're just going to take a gamble on it. And that's probably when we got lucky and the game changed, and hard work and perseverance, things were changing behind the scenes at the FA, at the clubs. And yeah, probably around 19, 20, 21 was when central contracts started coming in. And it makes me laugh now because the central contract was £16,000 and we give up our jobs to do that. I mean, £16,000 in the North East was a lot of money. I was living the dream. The girls in London they were having a bad time. But yeah, like, we give that up, and it was great. Like, we finally were classed as like full-time footballers, which was really weird at £16,000. But you look at the game now and it's incredible. But I guess people like me and Annie and Jill, Steph, Ellen, Kaz Carney, we all took gambles, and that's all it was. Like, no one really told us it was going to come good. We just hoped it would, and we did it for the love of what we do. And I think a lot of the girls still do it because it's hobbies that turned into jobs, and jobs that turned into careers. And yeah, now we do it still for the love of the game. And thankfully now the girls get paid what they should get paid, but obviously we're trying to make sure they get paid more, as they should. But yeah, that's basically the journey that we went on.
Yeah, I think Carly summed it up brilliantly in terms of, I always say I think we're lucky that, we were the sort of generation that sewed into the game, did it for the love of it, didn't do it for any money or payment or, not even attention. No one really cared, back in 2005 when I was at Charlton and we won the FA Cup, there was only one game on TV a year for women's football, like literally the FA Cup final, and that was our moment. That was the moment for women's football. And so I always say that we're lucky because we got to experience that, sowing the seeds when no one really cared. And then we also got to experience the sort of trajectory when everyone cared, and, the money comes into the game and the investment, and now we're playing at big stadiums and there's all sorts of programs and amazing initiatives going in. So I always feel really lucky that, we got to experience that. And I think if the last 10 years is anything to go by, I mean, it's really exciting what's going to happen for women's football, because I still think there's such a long way to go. Obviously, Carly's on the commercial side. You know, for me, I think, wow, there's just so much that can happen on the commercial side. So it's really exciting. It's really exciting to be part of it. You know, I always say football was like a forced marriage, you know, for me. I grew up just loving football. No one taught me. I just played it. And, you know, it's like a gift, and it's, you know, it's remains a gift, and something that, you know, I want to give as much back as I was able to benefit from.
I was going to ask how you both found that kind of adjustment, because you both spanned, you know, that transition, as you mentioned. And I know you say you're very lucky, but it must have been a bit of a whirlwind, maybe. I know from the sidelines it's been a bit of a whirlwind, seeing how, you know, it's gone so far. So as players, when you're right in the mix, when you probably don't realise it's happening at the time, how was that transition?
It was crazy. Like, I think 2015 for me was probably a big turning point in Canada, when we went on like kind of a mad one and finally beat Germany in a competition that we'd never done before. Won a bronze medal, and there was a lot of obviously controversy around kind of Laura Bassett and what happened in that game. But I remember we were so far away from home, being in Canada. None of us really knew. I think a lot of us had just got Instagram, shows how old I am, had just kind of ventured into what social media really was. And all of a sudden you're getting thousands of followers on Twitter. Like, people are like messaging you, DMing you. Companies are like, can I send you some stuff? Like, we're like, oh my God, like, yeah, of course you can. Like, for free, no worries. Just grateful we could get some free drinks or whatever it was. Like, it was just mad. And then basically, like, so 2015, I think, was the turning point for me personally. And I think a lot of the girls will say, where the media, I feel, really got behind us. The BBC, kind of, it was on mainstream, everyone's watching. And we came back to like, wow, like a lot of girls' names became household names for lots of different reasons. We came back with a medal, which we hadn't medalled before. And then I think the FA also were like, wait there, like, if we actually put a proper plan together and we host a Euros, we might actually win it with the crop of players that are coming behind the girls, like the likes of us in our era, the likes of Leah and Kira and the younger generation that were in the 19s at the time. We had a real good trajectory of where this actual England team could go, and with hosting it, again, being a nation of football, a football nation, if we really went behind the team, we could win something. So we had a conversation after 2015, around 2016, 17, Sue Campbell was like, we have a plan, and it will be that we want to actually just compete in the home Euros but win the World Cup. And the girls went and did it earlier. They won the Euros and then nearly won the World Cup. But at the same time, to win a Euros was incredible. But I think that we were privileged to be part of that journey. And that's kind of the trajectory of where things, I think, really changed for England. And the Lionesses became the Lionesses. We weren't England women. That was the first time we had our own kind of tagline as, and we became a brand. And that's now gone on to kind of reverberate around the world. And I think everyone's trying to find their own brand, but I don't think anything will be as strong as the Lionesses are right now.
I remember that 2015 because I came home earlier than you did, before the semi-finals, and I remember being like, it's really big back here, like, oh my God, like it's on all the TV shows, like all the talk shows in the morning are talking about it. I remember messaging you going, it's so much bigger than we realised. And I almost think the way that you went out, as heartbreaking as it was actually almost beneficial. It sounds kind of weird, because then everyone was talking about it.
You're absolutely right, because it was a story. You know, that was heartbreaking, but you could really feel invested in it. It was. I think also everybody likes to get behind a good team, and we were a really good team. You know, in 2015. I think prior to that, and we were talking about this backstage, I think the Olympics helped a lot, because we opened up the Olympics. Although it wasn't England Lionesses, it was a lot of the same players. And I think opening up the Olympics, being part of a massive thing in the UK, I think exposed us to a mainstream audience. You know, I remember, you know, winning 1-0 at Brazil in front of 80,000 people. And we were all like, oh my God, like, this is nuts. And then 2013 was actually a terrible tournament. But I think we also realised the dark side of it, where actually now we've got all this media attention off the back of 2012. Now, if you don't perform, you're going to be held accountable. So I think actually the start of that sort of like, what does success and failure feel like in a mainstream audience, that was started sort of 2012, 2013. Come 2015, when we then did well and got to a semi-final, it was like, we're getting right behind. And now obviously that's just continued, you know, the players now are brands unto themselves, household names. I was watching the TV casually the other day, and Leah Williamson and Lauren James popped up in a Walker's advert. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. You know,
still, like when you see that,
it's just mad.
We're the
like,
same when we see
well,
stuff.
I love it. Yeah. I think that's exactly what it should be, right? And I always pinch myself because I'm like, imagine, like we would never ever have thought that that's what we would see on mainstream TV. But, you know, and brilliant acting, by the way, by Leah and Lauren. It just seemed like, yeah, it's like that's where women, you know, fantastic female athletes should be, you know, front and center, and, you know, commercially inspiring young girls and you know, all the people in the game and lots of women, really.
Annie, when you moved on from your football career, retired, moved into, obviously you became an investor, you were behind the scenes in kind of in the club, higher up in the club as a director, and then also as a broadcaster as well. How have you found that move from playing to trying to figure out what to do next, and where you want your next move to be behind the scenes?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the transition, to be honest. It's been 5 years. I mean, I retired from Juventus in 2020, and it's flown by. And I think it's flown by because by the time I was retiring, I had already had a plan of what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to go into coaching. I wanted to sort of get away from the pitch a little bit. And I knew that I wanted to sort of go down the business law route. You know, I did a law degree, I qualified as a lawyer, and I felt that was a skill set that I could potentially use. So my first job obviously was sporting director at Aston Villa, which was really challenging because it was my first day was the, you know, first week of the lockdown. So football was like not really a priority, and you know, games were getting cancelled left, right and centre. There was testing, and so that was challenging, but, you know, really important for a process for me to go through. And then I went to a massive job in LA, which was, you know, amazing, and I learned so much from so many people out there. You know, Carly's team was our rival, San Diego, and much, you know, brilliant team under Casey Stoney. Yeah, I've just been on that journey really to just kind of be on the sort of business side of the game. Now I'm obviously an investor and advisor with Mercury 13, which has been amazing. Again, because I just feel like I'm at the cutting edge of the sport. How do we improve it? How do we invest in the future? How do we sort of bring more commercial growth to the game? So I'm still on that journey, to be honest. And obviously the TV stuff as well, I've been part of, which has been great at times, challenging at other times. Yeah, I just want to keep growing the game as much as I can. You know, I'm very passionate about it, and yeah, I want to keep doing it.
I guess with the more exposure of the game on the pitch, it exposes all the various roles that are available off the pitch, which is kind of what we're seeing here today, you know, seeing people who really want to be involved in the game, whether that's on or off the pitch. Carly, you're now back at Chelsea, but this time on the other side of the game. What's it been like stepping into a new role off the pitch at a club that's been such a big part of your journey as well?
Probably have to ask my boss. No, like seriously, I'm not going to lie. When I got offered the job, I was kind of like, wow, this seems like a pretty important job. And I've just took off my boots and gloves. And now I don't know how to use Outlook or Teams. And I don't know what WFH is, which was working from home, which I didn't know. But now I do. And I use that a lot. It's very nice. But yeah, I think that for me and Emma used to have a lot of chats on the bus on the way home from games, which seems funny to me at the time now when I think of Emma and who she is. But we used to talk. I went back to university when I was 27. So mine and Emma's journey was very funny, and Annie knows the story. So I was at the club 2009, 2012. I was young. I was naughty, Geordie, naive. She released me. I went away and played for another club for 4 years. I then came back to Chelsea because she brought me back. I grew up a lot. We had a lot of chats. I'd been to uni at the time and studied marketing and media because I'd been to multiple tournaments and was kind of frustrated that people only invest in women's sport when it's interesting, which was usually major tournaments, Olympics, World Cups, Euros. But why don't people invest before, during and after and wholeheartedly throughout the year? So I studied it, learned it, and then me and Emma would have chats about it. So when I retired, she rang me and was like, Car, I've got a job for you. And I thought, mate, I ain't coaching. Like, nah. Like, and if there's anyone to be coaching here, it's a great job. Do it. It's lovely. But I was like, I've done my time on the grass. But it is, like, I did do coaching, and it's so fulfilling. Like, I loved coaching, like under 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s I did when I was still at Chelsea. But for me, I was like, I've done my time on the grass. I want to do something different. I want to grow the game in a different way. She was like, no, I need you to meet someone. So we'd, at that time, employed a director. So there was 3 of us working in the women's department. So there was a director, head of ticketing sales, and little old me, who had 0 experience. Cool beans. But yeah, so we were in charge of basically running the women's side of the business. And we now have grown to 16 that are employed solely for the women's team. We have a CEO, we have a director, we have director of commercial, we have director of hospitality, we have myself, we have head of social, head of media. We have basically, our team's incredible. And I am so blessed and so lucky to work with every single one of them. And I learn every day. And I genuinely love my job. People ask, like, do you miss the pitch? Of course, today is like this, like sun shining. We're at Stamford Bridge. Would I love to be running around on the grass? Of course. Did I run around on the grass after full time? I absolutely did. But I also love what we're doing behind the scenes, which is helping try and fill the stadium, bringing good sponsors, bringing good partners, such as 3 who we've had for a couple of years now, and they've been fantastic and they do amazing things, and they just believe in women's sport, and it's about taking them on a journey and taking people with us on a journey. And I think for me, that's all I've ever wanted. I want people to invest in women and women's sport, young girls, make them believe, make them feel like they have an opportunity in life to do whatever they want. And for everyone sat in this room, there is now jobs and opportunities all over the game, from the likes of punditry to my job, to being social media, to physio, to coach, and I think we probably didn't know they existed back in the day, which is kind of sad in a way, but I just hope that now young girls and women feel, and older women, like there's a lot of women transitioning in an older position to come to the sport that they love. And I love that you loved football at 15, 16, 17, weren't allowed to play it, had to go and do like a boring office job, but now you can kind of come back into the game and love it for what you do. And I think that's so important, and the likes of me and Enya will always champion that, and I think that's what's incredible about it.
Take it back to your kind of playing days, and I know there will be a few people in this room who want to be players, who are trying to navigate that journey. What kind of advice, because there's so many ups and downs, and it is a tough road, isn't it? You know, it's not always linear.
For people who want to play? Yeah, I think Carly makes a great point that actually there's so much opportunity now and accessibility into the game, whether that's, you know, the elite level or grassroots or academy or semi-professional. You know, there is. I'd like to think there's, you know, a better infrastructure now and better resources, so that if you are somebody who wants to play the game, you can play it at all levels. You can, you know, strive to be at the elite level, or you can play at the grassroots level and still have, you know, the opportunity to play in a team and play the game you love. So I like the fact that that's improved. I still think there's a bit of a dropout, you know, certainly for sort of teenage girls, and I think we need to make sure that we're figuring out solutions for that, because you know, there's a lot of young people in this room who may, you know, feel like there's still some barriers. You know, financially, you know, how do people balance that? You know, there's still at the top level, of course, it's improved, but is that trickling down? You know, if you play in the championship or if you play leagues below, can you sustain yourself just playing football, or do you have to do another job? You know, these are the realities of the women's game that we just have to talk about. I'm able to see both perspectives because, you know, I had a brother that played professionally. By the time he was 18, he was earning a lot of money. I've got a 16-year-old brother now who's playing in an academy. Again, by the time, you know, if he gets a contract, he's sort of made for life, or he's on a trajectory of, you know, we don't always get the chance to say that. So, you know, I would encourage everybody to, think about what level you want to play at and just trying to get the best possible experience, but also, you know, is it that you have to balance it with another job, and, you know, find a way of balancing your football with something else. Unfortunately, I think we're still there, and, you know, hopefully in future there'll be more tiers of professional women's football. Do you know what I mean? Because I think at the moment it's WSL, WSL2, and it stops. And it's quite a small pool. So can we go even deeper? You know, there's an amazing pyramid in men's football, all the way down to, I don't know, you know, tier 6 or whatever it is. You can earn money from it, right? I think that needs to come into the women's game.
You touched on your time in America. Is that something you would advise to players who are maybe getting into the game to experience it? How much did it shape you playing in different leagues, different styles of football? Not that we want to encourage talented players over here to leave the country. Absolutely not. But just in terms of the experience and how it contributed to you as a footballer.
I think for me, I grew up in an era where, like, for me, playing in America was like the first thing you could do as a professional athlete. It didn't exist in England. So I was like, I'd love to play in America because that's what you did. You were one of the pioneers. You and Alex and Kelly went and did it when it was the first professional women's league. And it was like, oh my God, you can earn good money playing as a female footballer. So for me, I was kind of in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, do I want to dabble in America? Like, it's a pretty cool place. I'd been there a couple of times. Like, will I ever get the opportunity? And lucky enough, I obviously played with Casey many years. And when they knocked on the door, and basically my agent was like, Carl, like, San Diego want to sign you. And I was like, really? Like, come on, like, I'm an old girl. Like, what do they want to sign me for? Yeah. I was quite cushy at Chelsea doing what I did, picking up my trophies. I was living my best life. Like, I'm good, guys. Like, don't worry. And I was like, do I really need to go out there and start being like, oh. And then I was like, you know what it is? And then I rang Emma and I said, like, I've got a chance. She was like, Carl, we're not releasing you. I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, third choice. You don't need me. And she was like, yeah, but we got Wolfsburg and Champions League. And, you know, I like 3 goalkeepers. And I'm like, but mate, I'm just chilling like the side. Like, come on, you don't need me. You got Anne, you got Zachira. Like, everything's going to be fine. She was like, Carl, 3 keepers. And I was like, fine. Anyway, we got knocked out by Wolfsburg before Christmas. So I picked up the phone. I was a bit nervous. I was like, so that conversation we had about 3 goalkeepers and Champions League, now we're not in it. And she was like, you can go. And I was like, she was like, I hate saying this because I don't want to let you go, but you can go if you want to. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is happening. So I rang Case and I was like, Case, I think we've got it on. Like, it's happening. So I signed for San Diego and I left like mid-season of the 2021-22 season. And I went to San Diego and I had the best, I'm not going to swear, time of my life. I lived in one of the most beautiful places, which you guys can probably accustom to because you've visited. We had an incredible stadium, incredible fans. And I was in there, stood like, how have these people just started a team? They've just started a brand new franchise. We have 7,000 people in this little university stadium. We're building you a stadium of 35,000 people. And I thought, guys, we ain't going to fill 35,000 people. Like, we're a new team. It's not going to happen. First game, sold out. And every single person is wearing a piece of merch, San Diego merch. And I was like, these people do. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's jets flying over. There's things going off. There's people singing national anthems. I'm like, this is a whole show. This isn't happening at Stamford Bridge. Like, it's not the same. And we can't do that here. It's just not going to happen. But I was like, wow, these guys really know how to do something. And for me, I was like, I love I love this. And I think this is where it should be. And I think this is what fans deserve and need. And it doesn't have to be the same as men's football, which is what we do so traditionally here. It's like men's football, men's stadium, let's do the same. No, we don't need to do that. We don't have the same fan base. We have people that are fun. They love the game. They want to have a good time. They want to watch the football. They want to bring their mates. They want to just enjoy the game for what it is. So when I retired and came back, I was like, I'm bringing some Americanness to this business.
That's what I was going to ask you, because we bumped into each other at Bay FC last summer when we were doing a bit of a busman's holiday, and we thought season's done. What we do on holiday, we go watch some football in America, and bit of a West Coast tour, NWSL. And I think when we met you, we were like eating sushi at a match. Before the game started, there was about 20 different food trucks of all different types of food we could have, a full bar outside, and the pitch just like right there for us all to see. And as you say, everyone wearing merch. I think we were waiting for a shirt to get printed in the stadium and got a text at halftime to say, your shirt's ready to collect. Like, it is very cool. And, we're not going to ask the question of which one's better because WSL. But are there things you think we could learn that we could bring over? Maybe we leave the anthem over there. But, are there some things we can bring over? And also equally that I guess NWSL could learn from WSL?
100%. And I think it's that sense of entertainment that the Americans just do, they unapologetically. It's that sense of even if you don't really care about what's going on the pitch, you're going to have a great time. It's that sense of FOMO that they like to create. Certainly in LA, where we were competing with the Lakers, we were competing with the Rams, these massive franchises. We're competing with the weather, we're competing with the beach. We need to create something that it isn't just about what's going on the pitch. And I just think they're masters at doing that. I'm seeing bits of it coming over here, and I think it's that mentality of it doesn't need to be mimicked. The men's game doesn't need to be mimicked. The men's game is very traditional. It's 100-odd years old. So I think there's a shedding of that mentality. I always remember a game I came to here last year. I think it was against Arsenal.
Sockgate.
And it was Sockgate. Yes, it was
DJ.
Sockgate.
Love Sockgate.
And the DJ.
Hashtag.
And I remember thinking, because it was delayed.
Oh yeah, we ramped up the DJ. We said,
DJ
my guy, you play on Sockgate.
Yeah, the DJ became the focus. And I thought, this is brilliant, because actually, forget the football for a second. The music was great. I met a few new people, and I thought, actually, this needs to continue. Whether, forget the Sockgate. The DJ, pitch side DJ, and I hadn't seen, you're not going to see that in men's football. You know what I mean? You're going to have a tannoy. And so there are things that I think we can just be a little bit braver about. And if it's cheesy and doesn't work, so what? You learn from it. But I think the Americans are very brave with that stuff. And we can push the boat out a little bit more.
I think the way I describe it is when I go and watch sport in America, I feel like they feel that they're lucky to have me coming into the ground. Sometimes in traditional English sport, it's like we're lucky to be in the ground. So I think that's the way the kind of different mentality around, hooking people in and getting that entertainment. In terms of kind of coaching, obviously, a lot more opportunities now than maybe there used to be. There's, the FA are putting a lot into, developing coaching schemes and young female coaches in particular. What kind of, I know maybe not the routes that either of you have necessarily chosen, but in terms of going along that path for anyone in the room who's looking to get into that, how do we increase the kind of access? Because there is still a lot of boundaries in terms of cost, in terms of opportunity.
I think, coaching's a tough one. But one thing I would say, and I always learned this from Emma Hayes. Emma Hayes did coaching courses everywhere. So she did coaching courses here. She went to America. I think she went to Holland. She was very broad in her coaching education, which then made her into who she was. So I think it's about saying, sorry? She's very good, yeah. I think it's about saying to everyone in the room who wants to coach, be broad in your thinking. Because the reality is that there is, that it is still quite limited. I think also be ready to, if you have to be an assistant, maybe, and that's the opportunity, take it. Because sometimes you might not be assistant for long. You never know what's going to happen. But I think sometimes we're fixed and we go, right, I want to be head coach now. I'm ready. Yes, you're ready, but if the opportunity is not there, don't stand still. Keep jogging on the spot. Keep doing something. So I think that's important because I think sometimes the right opportunity you want might not be there, but there might be another opportunity in another space that might not feel perfect, but you're still going to get something out of it. That then feeds the experience for the big opportunity when it comes. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
I think you've got to love it. I think if you genuinely love it, you will adore it, you will invest in it. And I just think that's anything in life, I'm honest. Coaching is the most beautiful thing you can do because you are nurturing young and old talent to be better than what they were yesterday. And I think that's what the beauty of coaching is. But it is hard. And I won't hide from that. But it's hard and it's beautiful. And those are the two things that you're buying into. But if you genuinely love what you do every day, you aren't working. You're just doing what you love. And I think for me, that's what coaching is. I think if you want to be a coach, you don't feel like you're working. Yes, some days they're going to be tough. You're going to have difficult conversations with players, with people, genuine humans that are trying to try their best and then they're not going to make it. And that's okay. But it's how you speak to them, how you nurture them. You think about yourself and your own journey in those moments of how you wanted to be spoken to in those moments as well when you might not make it or you are really good at what you do. But I think coaching is such a blessed position to be. And I think of all the coaches that I've had since I was 7 years old. And I generally think they've had a huge, huge influence on who I am. You will generally have the biggest influence on some of these young children's, kids, adults' lives, whatever age you coach, because you will have so many interactions with them and they will talk to you as footballers and they will talk to you as people and you will help them and nurture them and guide them in their journeys. And I think that's a beautiful thing to have. So for me, I would have loved to have coached, but I was just very much done with being on the grass, unless I lived in San Diego, maybe. Then I would have been on the grass every day, getting a tan. But yeah, I think that anyone that's chasing coaching or wants to coach, go for it. It's a fabulous job. It's hard work, but it will reap the rewards from it. And you look at today, and Sonia has worked so hard. Emma has worked so hard to be in those positions of winning 5, 6, 7 times. But it's worth it when you're stood there with that lovely silver, gold thing that nobody can take away from you. That is you for the rest of your life. You've earned that right. You've earned the right to be there, and that will live with them forever. And that's what you work hard for.
It's all encompassing, isn't it? And I think that's probably an area as well that is improving is the work-life balance, which maybe isn't totally there yet with coaching. But I was going to ask each of you who the best coach you ever had was. It might be a bit obvious. So maybe I'll ask you, what qualities do you think players most admire in coaches?
Well, for me, I mean, Emma Hayes is the obvious answer because of her success, right? She's one of the best coaches I think this country has ever produced, man or woman. But the why, I think, is really important to say. You know, I retired 5 years ago and Emma still calls me from the other side of the world to check in, right? So she cared about the human being, ruthless at times. You know, Emma wasn't everybody's friend all of the time, but I think at the core of her is somebody who cares about the human being, who cares about, okay, you know, what are you studying now? What do you want to do when you retire? You know, just she gives a shit. You know, she just and that is so important, I think, as a coach, because behind the coaches, behind the players that you're coaching are human beings, right? And it's, you know, it's understanding emotions, it's that emotional intelligence, it's that communication skills. These are all the things, the soft skills that I think elevates coaches from being good technical and tactical coaches to amazing human beings who will stay with you even after you finish playing. So I think that's what sets Emma apart. I think if you watch some of the interviews of some of the US players, how they talk about Emma, again, it's about, she's, you can have a conversation with her. She's many ways a teacher. I remember Emma doing like presentations on periods, and it's just quirky and niche.
You're not invested in that first round. That first round of menstrual cycle stuff, we were like, nah,
menstrual cycle
we're not clocking into
presentations.
this. I ain't telling you when I'm doing my menstrual cycle, mate. Like, that's not.
No, but to her staff, to a lot of her male staff, that was key. Like, they were not going to learn that anywhere else, right? So it was just going above and beyond, teaching human beings, caring about human beings. I think that is the stardust for coaches.
And even just to like relate it to like the men's game, which I don't want to do in this, but it's like you listen to the Klopps, the Guardiolas, it's all about the players talk about how they feel cared for and seen. And yes, we're in a We See You network, which relates to that, but being felt and seen as a person, like we all have shit going on behind being a footballer, and to feel like someone cares for you outside of that, as well as your journey as a footballer, is so key. Because me and Annie, at the time when we played together, I probably spent more time with Annie than I did with my family. I spent more time with Emma than I did with my parents. She's a coach, she's a teacher, but she was almost like a mum, like, and a big sister. She's literally coaching me through life as well as on the pitch. So to have that buy-in from someone that cares about you as a whole person, as well as like, Carly, you were late to breakfast, not good enough, football terms, to how are your parents? Have you been home enough? Have you seen your family enough? Means that I feel seen and cared for, which means I am going to go the extra yard for you. And to go the extra yard, and I think that that's what Chelsea is. Like, when Zachira does her leaving view and talks about winning is in the walls, winning is it's thrown out there like a thing that's just casual for Chelsea, but it's ingrained in the walls because it's about the people. The people are in the walls, and it came from Emma. It comes from Sonia. It comes from all the staff that surrounded that. Is that there's a genuine care about the people that were within that building, and it doesn't matter where you come from. You're Naomi Gurma, you come from America. You're Vika Kapitan, you've come from Netherlands. You're 19, you're 24, you're 32. It doesn't matter. You came here to win, but we're going to look after you as a human, and this is your family. We are literally family to each other. We will see each other every single day and live and breathe each other's breakups, heartbreaks, parents, sisters, brothers, going through everything, because that is what we have to do every day to enable us to win and achieve the goals that we want to do. And I think as coaches, you have almost like a thing to make sure you're caring for that family around you. And Emma was leading that, and Sonia will now lead that, and that's how the girls win. Like, and it seems an easy thing to do, but
every club says it as well. I think every club will say we're a family, but actually, I think you can see the clubs and the teams and the managers who really embody that, and the ones that are a bit like it's not really authentic.
It's a part of the game, I think, that's really come to the fore as well. Maybe more recently, is that kind of people management side of coaching is so treasured, and we're starting to see it all over the sport, how important that is. And the more successful teams, as you say, are the ones that have coaches that really understand that side of the game. If we look at the media now, if we turn to that, and you've obviously been a powerful voice in football, how have you found that transition, from being the footballer to having to talk about the football in front of the screen?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think with the media, it's been a journey, right? Like, I've always been the person who was like happy to speak on behalf of the team or speak on behalf of myself, or, platform or highlight certain issues. I remember back in 2008 when we came back from China for the World Cup, and we were all taking unpaid leave. We were losing money playing for our country. And I remember at the time there was like one BBC journalist, and I was like, I'm going to tell them that this is going on, because I knew that that was the only way people would care you know. And I look back and I was like, okay, why was I willing to do that? And I think it was just always this instinct of like, the women's game needs a voice. The women's game needs other people to be our voice for us. And the media is one of the best things to do. So, you know, that's always been an instinct of mine. Obviously now there's been much more attention. You know, broadcasting is massive now across, you know, BBC, ITV, internationally, DAZN. So that's amazing to see. And we'll keep growing, of course.
Yeah, when I think back when we started in, you know, 2013, you know, it was just like a handful of journalists, if maybe one or two. And now, you know, we're going into...
You know what it is, Soph? I'm going to stop you right there because you guys have
You've
been following us.
You've been the OGs.
Since, and I'm just going to say this now, and I want a round of applause for these guys because these guys have been following us since the rabbit
It's
probably was
amazing.
alive. I'm not going to know that. Literally, like, Girls on the Ball have been
Honestly.
some of the, like, or probably one of the OGs in terms of pioneering something that didn't exist, right? Like whether it was Twitter, Facebook, and without you guys, and thank God that people are now championing you and putting you on a pedestal as you should be, because without people like you, and there's many others that I can't mention and won't talk about tonight because I don't know everyone's name, I don't leave one name out, but without you guys, like we wouldn't be able to nudge the BBC, the Skies, the whatevers, but without pioneers in the media, for me, when I studied it, it was like media and marketing, they go hand in hand. People would go, it's like chicken and egg. Media don't want to invest because the marketing's terrible, the game doesn't look good enough, but the game's now getting better, but the media, it just back and forward. But people that stayed with us from the beginning are the people that I think should be praised. So these guys are legit, and I just want to give a round of applause. So if you join in for what the guys have done. And I'm so thankful for people like you. Without your investment, your time, unpaid, a lot of it back in the day, on your own agenda, on your own, because the love of the game. And thank God you're now getting what you deserve. But it was a lot of that. It was having to find almost fans to come and do the work of people that should have been doing it on a professional basis. But thank God we've had you guys. And that's...
I kind of want to throw the question back to you, really. Like, how do you feel now... being in the media, having been part of it for so long, how do you feel now when you see, you know, this sort of like dipping in and dipping out sort of perspective from the media, you know, this sort of bandwagon jumping, or, you know, how do you feel it's kind of progressed and gone? Are you happy with
how it's going? Firstly, that wasn't in the script. Just, I have the running order.
Sorry, we're
going
going
not
off.
make them praise us like that. That was very nice. Thank you very much. I think there's a really good core that are around now. I think sometimes people don't realize the lengths that, even if you're working in mainstream media, the lengths people who are working in mainstream media have to go to get some stories told, and oftentimes it's the big things that get told and not maybe stuff further down the league, and that can be frustrating because it's all based on clicks and readership and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's maybe 10 or 12 people covering the WSL, the Lionesses. So I think sometimes we forget that, like, that is quite a small group when you think about maybe men's football, where they might have 2 or 3 per club doing that. So it kind of puts it in perspective where they're pulled from pillar to post. So I think we've been lucky that we've been in the room with them a lot in major tournaments and seen the hard work that goes on, and I guess seen how hard some of the decisions are that get made that maybe is out of their hands as well, which can be a little bit frustrating. I think it's amazing the group that's grown. Maybe not as big as we thought it would be. I think that was the biggest thing after the Euros, and you've said it, where we thought there'd be more journalists at more mainstream media, as opposed to kind of there's been maybe the same and then at times dropped off. And I think that was a surprise.
Yeah, I was expecting after England won the Euros for there's to be a massive investment push in terms of the journalistic side of the game. And, you know, there has been in some respects, you know, some organisations have really stepped up, but I do think there's so much, you know, we're nowhere near the ceiling.
Name them.
We're nowhere near the ceiling yet.
No,
and
who are they? Do not do that.
And I think when we're thinking about, it's that phrase, isn't it? Rising tides raises all boats. You know, I think when we're here today at Stamford Bridge, there's a ton of media here. but there probably wasn't a ton of media, say, at the King Power Stadium on the final day of the season. And it's about trying to lift the whole league as one, because it's brilliant what Chelsea, Arsenal, City, United are doing. It's incredible what they've done. But in order to have a strong league in the future and for a long-term strength of the league, I think that kind of investment needs to go in so that we're able to cover the whole 12 teams, or however many it might be, because at the moment, we cover 12 teams plus the Championship. A lot of the Guardian, the Telegraph, they've got one person doing that too. Trying to cover 12 different stories from 12 teams and all of the stories that might come out of that. And throughout a season, it's pretty impossible at times, I think.
Is anyone in here studying media? Yes, my girlies.
That was the next question about some
advice
advice
for them. Sorry, jumped the gun. But that is a shout out to you guys, because you will be the next generation of champion, and I'm sure these guys will help you. 3 will help you in terms of what that journey looks like, because we need more people, and media, marketing, commercial all go hand in hand. Yes, the girls will play on the pitch and do their thing, but without the surrounding things around them and writing stories and telling the big things, the Alessia Russo's winning Player of the Year, the LJ winning, all those things, Chelsea win the league. We need people who are on the ground at all times telling the smaller stories. Why did Wolverhampton do what they did? All these things have to be told at all times, and having more women go into the game and being like, we need to tell this story. We need to nudge that person. We need to do this. People will not ignore you.
The thing that has really struck me as well is the change in demographic in terms of women to men. I do remember being at the She Believes Cup, I think it was in 2017, and Jen O'Neill, She Kicks, she took a photo. She took a photo of all of us in the press room, and it was, I think, 9 women and 1 man. And I think that was the first time where it'd been majority female in the room, in a press room.
Girls.
And that's kind of been the change. And we have some brilliant male journalists, don't get me wrong, and we need them. But I think the fact that has grown, and that side of the sport has grown, and that, we are attracting females into the journalist side, which has been traditionally quite an intimidating part of the job. I think that's been a big progress as well.
And guys, use these guys. Lean into them. They are the best of the best. OGs, been around the game for a long time, will know from WSL all the way down to the tiers at the bottom, which my sister still plays in. But we'll know everything from the game. If you didn't know Bertley Town, my sister's team, they went invincible. I was like, Georgia, this is not like Chelsea are invincible. We can't talk about Bertley Town right now. But at the same time, they will know all the pyramid, and to learn and grow off people that have lived and breathed the game from its infancy to where it is now, you will learn so much. And I just think we are blessed to have you guys, and I think that you guys should be championed in a totally different way and lead in a different way, and I don't know how we do that. It's a separate conversation. But I think that learning from a journalistic side, a media side, a way that we can help each other and elevate each other, these guys are the people we should be leaning into.
I appreciate that, because there are lots of cool ways of covering the game as well, which maybe we don't see as much in the men's game because it's almost reached its ceiling, whereas we've still got a ceiling to reach and smash through. So whether it's podcasts,
we can do different.
Exactly. So
we can do different. That's
so
what I love
ways.
about women's football. Is we can do things different. Yes, the game is the same. 2 teams, 11 each, 1 pitch, 2 goals. It's fine. Everyone's trying to win. Everything that surrounds that, let's make it what we want.
Social media, I think, has helped the women's game a lot as well. That sort of ability to create content, with low cost, without sort of having to go up a chain to an editor and things like that. So I think, being innovative as well with social media, is still really important. Creating content, finding new ways of telling stories. I think that's really important as well.
Because I think there was a report that came out after the Euros, and it touched on the kind of Gen Z demographic and how traditionally that had been quite a difficult demographic to tap into for live sport. And actually in women's football, that was a really quick growing demographic, which is quite interesting. So, I know sometimes we always say, it's a different audience. And yes, we do have people who support the men's team and the women's team, of course, but there's also other demographics that we can tap into. And I don't know if that's something you've seen from a broadcasting perspective in the women's game. Have you noticed improvements maybe in the industry in terms of how they approach the women's game versus the men's?
I think when you have traditional broadcasters like BBC, ITV, the fact that they're involved is amazing, because there's 50, 60 years of experience of how to showcase the professional game. So I think that's been really important. I think broadcasters like DAZN, which are sort of more digital, they've been able to sort of do things a little bit differently. Obviously, it's a multi-sport platform as well. And it's sort of, I quite like the sort of adjacent content. So the stuff outside the 90 minutes that I think is really interesting. It showcases the personalities of the players. Sometimes it's light entertainment. I think that's really important for the women's game, because we're such interesting characters and there's such interesting storytelling opportunities. There's just so many layers to us as women. So I think the stuff outside the 90 minutes can be amplified even more through broadcasters, digital, traditional. Now you've got the streamers coming in. Netflix have just announced that they are doing Women's World Cup. So I think there's going to be different types of broadcasting that is going to go on for the women's game that's really exciting. That, again, is not necessarily happening in the men's game. There's a reason why Amazon have got the rights in the NWSL. There's a reason why they're coming in, because they're seeing an opportunity to do something that they don't necessarily want to do in men's sport. So I really love the sort of documentaries, the docu-series, the adjacent content that I think really gets you invested into the players and the clubs and the managers, and more of that, please.
Even using YouTube, I was going to say don't quote me on this, but I'm trying to remember the figures that we got the other day from Barclays was around, I think it was 850,000 views on FA Player last season, and 11.5 million on YouTube halfway through the season this year, I think. Don't quote me on that. But basically, it was a lot more. And I guess utilising those kind of platforms, and yes, we'd love to see it on TV, but how cool is it that it's, being broadcast all around different countries around the world?
And that's how the younger generation are consuming. Like, how many people are watching TVs now? They watch on these things, on their iPads. And we've got to tap into that demographic. I think for us as a Chelsea team, you've seen a big shift. In January last year, we decided to do our own TikTok, which was great. A big lift for the social team. Well done, everyone. But to be fair, they worked so hard in bringing the personalities to life. And I'm sure those of you that have TikTok have seen how we integrate the players and they kind of bring them to life. And last year, TikTok came to us and were like, what are you guys up to? Because it's off the chain what you're doing. I was like, what do you mean? It was like, your engagement. So last year, we were the number one women's sports club engaged in the whole world. The whole world. I nearly swore there, sorry. And I was like, are you joking? Like, that is incredible. We're competing with NWSL, WNBA, with Caitlin Clark and all that, and we were the number one in terms of engagements. And I was like, that just is a credit to the team that we've built, but also like how we bring their personalities to life. I think people want to know about the girls. People want to know about what's behind the footballers, because they see little snippets the minute, like in training and whatever, and you get those. But actually, when they're around their mates,
who's the character that gets the best engagement? I want to guess, but I want you. Is it Erin Cuthbert?
It's Erin Cuthbert.
who gets
No
the
comment.
most like views?
We like to share the content amongst the girls so everyone feels valued. No, it's a mix. Like, I think it comes with a lot of clout as well. Like your Lioness girls get a lot of love. Like LJ, Kira, Lucy, and that get a lot of big views just because of, especially LJ. She's kind of this mysterious character that is an incredible footballer, but who is LJ? Everyone wants to see and know who LJ is. So when she brings herself to life, everyone's like, oh my God, I need to see what she's talking about, what she's doing. But I think we love that and engaging them in a different way. And we've spoke to them personally. We've been like, guys, like, we need you to be present and show. And they're like, okay, like, let's do it. And along with like the likes of TikTok and even like 3 and Skoda who do the podcast, like the partnerships have also engaged in it as well, which means that they get to bring them to life in a different way. So for us, like, leaning into the players as humans and people. That's what people want to do. How close can I feel to Erin? Do I sound like Erin? Do I like Iron Brew? She likes Iron Brew. Does she do this? And the fans feel close. They feel like engage with the girls in a different way, and the girls then feel closer to the fans because they feel like they know them a little bit better. So for us, like in that 18 to 35 demographic, especially as a club like Chelsea, in terms of a club, we are very white male dominated. But as a women's team, in our fan base, it's very 18 to 35, like 60%, 55 to 45% still male. Surprisingly, everyone goes, oh, you must have loads of women. I'm like, actually, it's lots of girl dads. Girl dads love bringing their kids to the games. And they're like, yeah, I'm here for it. I can bring my kids. They feel safe. They love it. I can feel engaged. I can dance. I can jump and no one's judging me. And I'm just like, we want that. We want them to feel like that. And we want that younger demographic to keep coming, to buy the merch, to feel invested, to be part of this range and the range we're releasing, and like just be free and be part of something that you feel that can be you as 45, as a dad or a mom, and to your kid who's now 15, 14, and to their kids. That's how it should be, and we just want to create something that's really long lasting.
I'll be honest, I watched that didn't watch the latest TikTok with Kira and Neve with the bottle. It was for the tickets for the Liverpool game.
What do you mean you didn't watch it, guys?
I saw this morning. I think I watched it like 20 times. So I can see the engagement where it's coming from.
How many times?
So
most of it's you.
Just this morning.
Most of it's you.
So it's mostly me.
And then I guess leading on from that, the reason why we're here, the We See You Network, it's about, kind of celebrating amazing women in football with this network. And I guess asking you who your biggest inspiration has been in terms of, the game.
Oh, wow. I have a lot of inspirations. I think obviously I've spoken about Emma Hayes. I think Emma was a big inspiration for me, both as somebody who was a, visionary, pioneer, brave, courageous. When she started her job at Chelsea, she was still managing a foreign exchange business. She's a businesswoman as well. And those things are all things that sparked my curiosity, because I was in law school at the time and I had something going on off the pitch. So Emma was definitely one. And I think players that I've played with, Chelsea for me was probably my purple patch in terms of just feeling so inspired by the players, felt so close to the players, had the best time of my life, still friends with a lot of the players. The team that, I was part of for 7 years, and just the diversity of the team, Ji So-Yun was like playing behind me, couldn't speak a lick of English when she came, and then by the time she left, she was like the most...
mate, she still claimed to me and she couldn't speak English. Emma would be like, gee, what did you do? She'd no speak English. I'm like, mate, you've just been in the changing room.
She selectively did speak English.
She was like...
She was,
She was very...
She couldn't
very
speak
smart.
English.
Yeah, she was
smart girl.
But she could speak English by the time. But, it was just that... It was just that sense of like... I learned from so many of the players. G would come back from South Korea and talk about playing North Korea, and it was a crazy experience. And we just had such an amazing team, and the challenges that some of the players had. People like Fran Kirby. I used to be really inspired by her and her story. Carly the same. And we went through a lot together. And so and now. A lot of these players have gone on to do great things, Carly being at Chelsea, even someone like Casey Stoney, who I played with back before Emma Hayes' time at Chelsea. And Casey's gone on to be one of the best female coaches in the world, So I've drawn a lot of inspiration. I was lucky, I think, to be part of a team that there was just so many amazing characters.
Mine's pretty simple. I think I was brought up by a woman who was incredibly strong and incredibly powerful in what she thought and the way she thought. And I think that me and my sister, so I'm talking about my mum, that was just allowed us to be who we wanted to be, and really just believe that there was no boundaries. in a lot of different things, but she just wanted us to be happy in whatever we did. And if that meant her little girl played football when no other little girls were doing it, then that's what she was going to let us do. If we wanted to leave home at 18, as much as it hurt because we were leaving home, she wanted us to go and live and achieve our dreams. Like, I think that my mum was and will still be always my biggest kind of champion, even though she's not here anymore. I'm so lucky that I got to spend like 30 years with her, and she championed us in a way that I can never thank her enough for. And I think having strong women lead you and strong women guide you and surround you. And I look around in this room and there's so many women, and I don't know if you've all met, but please meet each other, please champion each other, please support each other. Like, there is nothing better than a woman supporting a woman, and I was lucky to have that for so many years of my life. And even though she's not here, like, I will forever continue that legacy of championing women around me and making sure my sister has always felt like she's loved, adored, and is the best thing she will ever be in life. And I want to champion that in the team that I surround myself with, whether that's on the pitch with the likes of any, or it's with my team now in the commercial sector, that women are incredible. We're incredible people, like, and we deserve to be championed by each other and support each other. And I'm so thankful that I have so many of those women around me. And I think today is a really good opportunity for you to connect with each other and support each other in whatever journey that looks like, because it's a unique thing to be surrounded by a group of women that are very incredible, powerful and supportive. So please embrace that. Please support that. I think that in women's football, it's a very strong and powerful thing.
Yeah.
And I think as long as we have that, we'll always keep on a trajectory that is up. And yeah, just shout out to Yvonne, my mum.
Love that.
Well, thank you, Mum.
Beautiful.
And I've been told to wrap, so I've got one final question, which I think would be very valuable for everyone in the room. But just very quickly, a little piece of advice for everyone in the room, perhaps on different journeys in and around women's football.
Wow. Piece of advice, I think, would be, I always try to say, be as multi-dimensional as you can. I think that served me really well. You know, whatever your skill set is and passion is, pursue that. But I think always also try to see how you can extend that skill set, how you can learn something new, so that when you're doing whatever job you're doing, you can bring different skills to that. I think that's really important, particularly for us as women, where sometimes at clubs you have to have 3 different hats, because there isn't, you know, you mentioned it, there isn't, you know, 5 journalists covering one game. So you have to be the stato, you have to be the journalist, you know. So I think it's a superpower that I think exists in the women's game, where there is a lot of women who've just figured out how to do a lot in one person, because, you know, there hasn't always been resources. But I actually think it sets you apart. That would be a big word of advice for me.
I think, I was a terrible student. I didn't like learning because I don't think I loved what I did. I hated maths. I was all right in English. I hated German. But I think once I found what I loved, what I did, I really learnt on it. But then I also became a sponge for everything else. Like, I know I'm not a polished product. I spent yesterday from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. We were putting out 4,000 flags, 4,000 clappers, putting out all the hospitality. Like, I am a commercial manager, I am the flag person, I am this. And it is about absorbing everything around you. If you want to be a coach, learn to do psychology, learn so much around you, because absorbing all that will not only make you a better person in general, which I believe in, all of us can be better people every single day, but it will help you be like lean onto the next person, whatever you do, whether you're a coach, a physio, you're on a journey, you're a media, you're a journalist, your social media, like, it will teach you to be a better all-rounded human, which will then help you be whatever you want to be. So for me, I'm just like, be a sponge. I know it sounds so silly, but just absorb what everything's around you. Learn and listen to the people around you. Everyone's journey is so different. There is no journey. 2 journeys are not the same. We might end up in the same place doing the same thing, but our journeys will have been so different. So learn, listen, be absorbent, and just, and also just like do what you love. And I promise you, still to this day, and I'll give you my age, I'm 37, don't put that on live. I generally feel like I haven't worked a day in my life because I love what I do. And I generally wouldn't have thought I would have ended up being somewhere like this or doing what I do as a really like important position, which is dangerous. But I love what I do. And I believe that I want to create so much space for other people around me and what they do. And because of that, it's just, I love what I do. It's a brilliant position to be in. And yeah, that's it.
I love that. I'd also say we're all very good at championing our friends and bigging up our friends. That means you have to take what your friends say about you on board as well. So believe your group. When your group big you up and tell you you can do it, you're perfect for this role, it's going to be really good. Believe them, because I think we're all really good at telling each other how good we're going to be, but not very good at taking it on board ourselves. That would be my piece of advice. That is our very first live record, guys. Thank you so much to Carly and Annie for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
making it special. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Thank you.